Stand and deliver.
Okay, we're back here at the range to do a little more shotgun buckshot testing. Not quite as sunny as it was the other day, but this is going to be a before test with my Remington 1100 primary home defense shotgun, which I'm planning to do some more modifications to. The reason I'm doing this test and calling it a before test is that the 20-inch barrel that's on it here, this is cut down from a longer field barrel, so it has absolutely no choke constriction at all. And I know that at long range, much beyond living room range, that's not a problem, but beyond that, it probably spread out so much you'd be pretty unlucky to be the guy that the buckshot pellets hit. But we're going to find that out. I call it a before test because I plan to send this barrel in to have it reamed and threaded for choke tubes, and I'm going to install a tactical choke tube on it, and then I'll do an after test to see how much improvement I get. So first I'm going to do the close-up test at about 15 feet, which again is about, across the room distance. And in close-up I'm going to test two loads. First is going to be the Hornady Critical Defense. Then the second load I'm going to test close up here just because I'm curious, and that's going to be the Winchester PDX1 duplex load, the 3 buckshot pellets over the 1 ounce slug. So let's get to shooting. Well, one other note, you'll notice there's no front sight, no bead or sight or any kind on the end of this barrel. If you watched my latest shotgun buckshot testing video, you'll see why. Doesn't seem to matter at close range. Okay, that was the Critical Defense. I aimed at about the bottom of the center triangle, the orange outline triangle. So it still shoots pretty close to point of aim at across the room distance, even if it doesn't have a choke in it. Now we're going to try this PDX1, and I'm going to make a headshot with it. He looks happy now, but he ain't going to be very happy in a minute. I will tell you that as stout as that Critical Defense is, and it is 1600 feet per second, it's a funny thing, this PDX1, I guess it's because of the slug, feels stouter, even though it's about 400 feet per second slower. Just an unusual thing to note. So I'll analyze these targets later back at the man cave. But for now, we're going to move back to 25 yards and see if I can hit anything with this Critical Defense with no choke and no sights. So we're going to head on back to 25 yards now. Okay, we're back at 25 yards now. Tired of saying okay at the beginning of every one of them. So.
You didn't say it.
I did.
You did.
Okay, well, we'll just keep going. Well, here we are at the 25-yard line, and I'm going to shoot one round of the Critical Defense at that target and see, first of all, can I hit it without any front sight bead to aim with, and secondly, with no choke constriction at all on the barrel, see what kind of pattern we get, if any of it even hits the target. So this should be interesting. Alright, well, it looks like we at least hit the top of the target. I was aiming at the very bottom of the target. So that tells you what lack of a front sight of the proper height or at all, and no choke versus distance will do for you with a shotgun shell. So that's it until we get back to the man cave and analyze the target. Well, I'm back a little sooner than expected. We got to talking about it and decided that since I did do the short range test of the PDX1 along with this critical defense out of this shotgun, that I should probably go ahead and see how the PDX1 does at 25 yards out of this shotgun with no choke and no front sight. Since I happen to have one other round of the PDX1, that's what we're going to do. Alright, now we'll head back to the man cave and do some target analysis. We'll see you there. Welcome back to the man cave. Well, before we get on to looking at the targets, I thought that I would give you a quick tour of my Remington 1100 that we were using and show you some of the things that I've done to it and talk about some of the modifications I'm going to do to it. First of all, as you can see, one of the first modifications I made to it was to camouflage paint the stock and forend. Let me see if I can give you a little closer look at the at that. So bear with me here. It's not easy to manipulate. There we go. I don't know if you can see that very well. This camera doesn't do low lighting as well as I would like, but come over here. You can see it better probably on the forend. Okay. Now, this paint job that I did on here, this is the original wood stock and forend. And before anybody says, oh, you messed up that nice Remington gloss forend. No, I didn't. I actually used the type of camouflage paint that can be removed with soap and water. So it can be brought back to its original look. What can't be brought back to original on it is the length of pull. At least not without some spacers, because I originally built this several years ago for my wife, who is short and has very short arms. She's like 5'2", I think it is. She's got very short arms, and so I built this with her length of pull in mind. And I also cut the stock extra short so I could install an extra thick sorbethane recoil pad in order to make it easier for her to shoot. Well, since then she has decided that it's not really for her. So, and that means it's for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it and I'm going to remake it in my image. Okay? And some of the things that I'd already done to it is I put a Tackstar 4-round side saddle on it. And I have, as you can see, I have a tactical bolt handle. Now, originally, when I built it for her, I had used this choked extended bolt handle, but I decided I didn't really like that too much. And I remember back in the 80s, I had a nice Beretta shotgun, and it had a bolt handle of this style, which I found much easier to grab and operate. And this particular one is a Dave's Metal Works that I got from Brownells. So I replaced the choke handle with this. Now, I put the extended magazine on it. This happens to be a little over 20 inches of barrel, and this extended, let's see, there we go. You don't have to excuse this camera work. Hard to do it by myself here, and it's over my shoulder and all that good stuff. But as you can see, it works okay, but it's plastic, and despite its length, it doesn't hold as many rounds as the comparable Tackstar holds. And so I'm going to be replacing this plastic Pro Mag with the Tackstar extended magazine. And I think that should work better. Now, another thing that I'm going to be replacing is going to be the stocks. Now, because of the fact that I had cut this one short to fit my wife, one of the things I discovered is that when I try to shoot it, especially if it has a stout load, I'm grasping it like this. Well, I'm afraid my thumb knuckle usually ends up in my eye. So that has to change. So what I'm going to replace that with is this. This Speed Feed pistol grip stock. I'm not particularly fond of pistol grip stocks on shotguns. However, I got this particular one for a reason, because this is their shorter length of pull stock, so that she will still be able to use it if she needs to, but because my hand will now be on the pistol grip, it won't end up in my eye. Also the forend. Now, I plan to do the same type of camouflage paint job on this stock that I did on the original, except I'm going to be using a more permanent paint. Now, this Speed Feed stock comes with this recoil pad. Well, that's what they call it. Me, I call it a hammer. So One of the other things I'll be doing is I bought this limb saver pad, and I'll be grinding that to fit on the stock here, and that should be a whole lot easier on the shoulder. Now, a few of the other modifications I'll be making to it. Let me show you here. I'll be replacing the safety button with the Van Comp extended speed safety. Okay. I'll also be installing a high visibility follower in the magazine. I will be reinstalling one of these high-vis fiber optic front sights on here, the same kind that you saw take a flying leap in the in the excerpt in my 25-yard buckshot test videos, except I will not be using the screws that come with it that have the thin heads. I have some screws with thicker heads that should work better. I will also be installing on the 1100. Loading is really a two-step process. You have to drop the bolt first, usually on a round, and this silver part right here, that's your bolt release button, which is a separate piece from your loading gate. Okay, well, I intend to replace that with the Easy Loader carrier release. This piece here actually replaces that button, and it makes dropping the bolt and loading the first round a one-step process, which will be faster. I'll also be installing this shotgun tri-rail on the front so that I can then, using a mount that I have, install my old Tacstar tactical light with the remote switch. Once I've done all of that, it should be the way I want it. I will video these modifications that I do for you, and you'll see the results of them when we take them out for the after comparison shoot, once I get the barrel back from the choke installation place. All right, well, that's it. So let's go on and take a look at the targets. Okay, let's take a closer look at the targets. Let's remember that these targets were fired out of the Remington 1100 barrel here that has no choke at all and also had no front sight. We fired a target at 15 feet, which is pretty much across the room distances, and then we fired the same two loads at 25 yards. So we'll take a close look now at at first the close-up 15-foot target. Okay, first we'll look at the Hornady Critical Defense and see how it performed at 15 feet. As expected, it performed pretty darn well. Okay, it's at 15 feet. Doesn't really matter if you've got any choke constriction at all. Doesn't really even matter if you've got a front sight. You just sight over the top of the front sight and put the top of the front sight where you want the buckshot to go. It's going to go pretty close. In this case, I was aiming over the top of the top of the barrel, and the top of the barrel I had positioned right about in here, where the bottom of the diamond is. And it had hit close enough for government work. Now, the Critical Defense is a 9 pellet load, and it put all 9 of its pellets into this 1.5 inch group right there. So that's going to take care of pretty much any bad guy. I'm still favorably impressed with the Critical Defense. Alright, now we'll look at the close-up group with the Winchester PDX1. Okay, now we'll look at the close-up target of the Winchester PDX1. This is that duplex round with 3 buckshot balls over one ounce slug. I have to say that it is more impressive close up, and there again, at close distance across the room, it will definitely do the job. I was less impressed with it in the 25-yard test out of the IAC Hawk, but close up, it seemed to do the job. Now, there again, no front sight. I was aiming at the top of the barrel position right about here in the chin area, and as you can see, it basically took out his left eye, and pretty much probably a real person that would pretty much take out that whole side of his face. And it appears that all of the pellets and the buckshot all went into that 2-inch group. So that for close-up inside the home defense, the PDX1 would certainly be an effective load. Now we'll see how they did at 25 yards. Alright, now we'll look at the 25-yard target, and first the Critical Defense. I have to say that I continue to be impressed with this Hornady Critical Defense. Even out of that Remington 1100 with no choke at all and no front sight, it still printed a pattern at 25 yards that was was very tight. Okay, the whole pattern is about 9 inch by 6 inches. Now there's only 8 pellets in the target. One of them probably went over the shoulder. But there again, 8 out of 9 pellets at 25 yards and no choke restriction. I'm not worried about that. Plus, probably if I'd have had a front sight on it, I could have aimed better, and most likely all 9 pellets would have been in the target. So I don't fault the Critical Defense for the loss of that one pellet. Also, once again, at least half of the pellets remained concentrated in a small 6-inch by 3-inch pattern, and that's that's going to cause enough trauma and shock, which is what you want, that it's certainly going to make the bad guy sit up and take notice. So I really continue to be impressed with the Critical Defense load. Now we'll take a look at the 25-yard results on that Winchester PDX1. Now let's look at the Winchester PDX1 at 25 yards out of that Remington. I have to say that this PDX1 puzzles me a bit, because at 25 yards out of that barrel with no choke constriction at all, I ended up getting what appears to be a better, more concentrated pattern at 25 yards than I got out of the IAC Hawk that does have at least some constriction. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that the Hawk has an 18.5-inch barrel, and the barrel on my Remington 1100 is a little over 20 inches. I don't really think that should have that much effect on it. Now, I can't tell from looking at this whether or not that is the slug. I can obviously the slug. I can't tell if all 3 of the buckshot rounds went through here or not, but it appears that at least a couple of them did. So I think before I completely eliminate the PDX1 from my list of home defense choices, I think I'm going to have to do some more extensive testing of that round sometime in the future. Certainly when I get my shotgun barrel back with the new tactical choke in it. So I'll keep you posted on that. But it doesn't seem to have done too badly. So that takes care of the before test for my Remington 1100. I don't know exactly how long it'll take me to gather up the funds to pay for the choke job and to get the barrel sent out and get it back and get to testing it or not. But just as soon as I accomplish all of that, then I will film the after tests and I will post those. So stay tuned and keep looking for it. Until then, keep watching because I have more good stuff to come. See you later.
Show's over for now.